Hello. On the 14th and the 15th of November, there was a language developers meetup in Utrecht, and no recordings were made, so I made a video of the presentation I gave there. We love coding, but it's not the preferred interface of everybody. If we want to, so for instance, a low code, no code are very popular. If we want to promote the model driven approach, the domain specific languages approach to our subject matter experts, then maybe we also must look at what are their preferred interfaces. But to get stuff into an AST, you can do that on several different ways. Textual, graphical, but I want to talk about another way, not really textual, not really graphical, and it's very much used online. And we all want to go online, everything on the web, of course. Then it's better for collaborative modeling. You don't have to install anything on your own computer. And we use it a lot, online applications. For instance, we go to a web shop, you buy something, and then you have to input your address to get the stuff. How do you input data like that? Now, normally you do that via a form, an HTML form, almost as old as the internet itself and HTML. 10 simple, basic form elements. Well, forms restrict you very much to what you can do. They tell you what to put in the forms and what not. They constrain you. And that's actually, in some cases, something very good. For instance, if you want to input things into an AST. And those basic HTML elements have not changed very much, but there are a lot of libraries that and packages that have extended the possibilities and the usability of HTML forms considerably. For instance, on React, but I use Joomla, and in all those libraries and packages you have extra possibilities like a compact definition. In Joomla you have an XML file to define your forms. You can have nested fields. In the original form tag, they cannot be nested. You cannot have a form in HTML. But with those extensions, with those libraries, you can do that. So, for instance, you could have an order form with order lines also as a form for an order line, and you can have multiple of those order line forms into your order form. So by nesting, you can have a powerful possibility to give some structure to forms. You are not only limited to those original 10 basic HTML form elements, but now you have specialized fields for inputting color or inputting a date, or dozens of specialized input fields, and you can make your own custom fields. So that's really going in the direction of typing. They are multilingual. They have easy drag and drop ordering. you have form validation, constraints, even more going into the direction of typing, and easy JSON output in Joomla. It's on the PHP stack. It's only one command to have a whole nested form with nested forms in it to output that to a JSON string. And a JSON is, if you see it, you almost get an AST for free. Oh, you could put that on a tile, you know, a nested fields and JSON output gives an AST for free. So forms have a lot of possibilities, but they're mostly only used in end user software and not for modeling. And we want to get stuff into an AST. We want to put things into a model. And for that we use a modeling language. And what I want to do is to use those forms as my modeling language. So I made an online application to create online applications. In fact, it is a Joomla extension to create Joomla extensions. So that need a little bit of explanation because this was a meetup for language developers and not for CMS developers. But Joomla is an open source CMS, but it's also a platform on which you can build online applications, and you get a lot of basic infrastructure ready-made, like user login, ACL, nice MVC structure, forms, of course, and you can build anything with it. Any online application like e-commerce, CRM, accounting, intranet applications, learning platforms, ticket reservations, you name it, you can build it. You can build that in Joomla for one specific organization, for a company or an NGO or whatever, but you can also distribute your extension so others can use it too. And for that we have the Joomla extension directory. At the moment about 6,000 extensions are registered on that Joomla extension directory. So this is a nice ecosystem, but it has one problem. The problem is the Joomla is not very good in backwards compatibility. Some people had an extensive Joomla 3 application, and in order to make it compatible for Joomla 4 they had to rewrite it, and it took almost a year to rewrite it with the same functionality. So as language developers we all know the solution for that problem, and that is model-driven approach. You make a model, in this case of a Joomla extension, and from that model you can generate, for instance, Joomla 3, Joomla 4, Symfony application, maybe some totally different stack than on PHP. All possible. So they did. About a year of 10 ago, some people started the project JoomDD. It was an Xtext project where you could define Joomla extensions, and you could generate Joomla with extend, Joomla 3, Joomla 4 components with it. So they defined a grammar for their modeling language. EGSL was that called, the modeling language, and you could input your stuff into a model, and from that Joomla 3 and 4 was generated. Well, I ported this whole thing to MPS with the kind mentoring of Kolja. So that's also what I like of this language community. A lot of people helping each other. And I took all the concepts from the grammar in in Xtext and made them concepts in MPS, and made a Joomla 3 and Joomla 4 generator for it, and made editors, of course. And those Joomla 3 and 4 generators were combined thanks to the blog post of Nico on the Fire blog. And so I could use this same thing. But now it comes, I ported this thing to a Joomla extension. So that's online to define Joomla extensions using those forms. So here come the forms. So it's an online application based on those forms to define what kind of Joomla extension you want. So I defined some extensions here, and you push the generate button and then you get your Joomla extension. I only worked on a Joomla 4 generator till now, but you get the idea. It's all based on those nested forms. All the concepts that were before in that MPS application are now ported to forms, defined each in an XML file. And in as a form, it looks like this. You have it's a bit spacious, but okay, it's doable. And this model for the Joomla extension consists of 3 parts, and one part is the data model. That's an entity and relationship model. So you define several entities. If you want to have a new entity, you click the plus button and you get an empty form of an entity, and you can fill that in. If you have an entity, then that can have multiple fields. If you want to have a new field, you click the plus button and you get a new field. You can a new empty subform of a field, and you can fill that in. It is a bit spacious, as I said, but I also have show hide buttons to fold the subforms, and as you can see here, so here you have from a field all the things from a field are one below the other, but you can also have them on one line, like in the example of an order line in an order form. You would also put it on one line, the product name and the product number, the price and the VAT percentage, etc. So that makes it more compact. And also this is the default layout used in Joomla, but you can with some simple CSS make it much more compact. Also for that data part, I had a button here for an entity relationship diagram, so I can easily get some overview with a plant UML generated entity relationship diagram. And I also, because the model was easily divided in 3 parts, I put those 3 parts on different tabs. That also gives a bit more overview, because you don't have everything on one page. So there's on usability, or no, user experience. You can improve something with those forms. This is an example of such an entity relationship diagram from Plant UML. This is an example that was already used in JoomDD of a simple 4 entity model of a conference. and the conference has a program, and the program has talks, multiple talks, and a talk has a field named speaker, and a speaker is a reference to another entity, a participant. In the forms, that looks like this: when you have a talk entity, and you have a subform for a field named speaker, and that speaker is not a property but a reference to another entity, an participant. You can choose that here. So you see, this is rather clear. It's easy to input. I made a generator that is more based on templates, where you put variables from the AST into it. PHP is by origin a templating language, so that is not so difficult, and it is a bit based on the same way as I used in MPS with plain text templates. Oh, and the mapping to those templates is now still done with a PHP script, but I also want to use forms. I'm looking for how to use forms more and more instead of code. So what I showed with this till now is that it is very well possible to use forms also as a modeling language, to input things into the AST. But I wanted to go a step further, and that is to define the forms. This is the generator. To define the forms that make the forms. Forms that define forms. So that is on the meta level. So I could not only input my EGSL or ER1, I called it in this project language, to make Joomla extensions, but also other languages. Just at the moment that I started with this on this level, the LionWeb initiative started, and they have a general modeling language, and I used that as a base. So the Core M3 language has all kinds of concepts, and I took all those concepts and put them into forms. For me, it was in an XML files defined forms. And with that, I could define and generate the forms that I had used to make the Joomla extensions. For the forms in the Lion Core M3 language, I have a project forms diagram. That's an object diagram button. So I get object diagrams in Plant UML. So you have a bit of an overview. What I do is I type in what concepts I want, and then I ask in between typing the project form, so I have a bit of an overview how it all fits together. For the implementation of those forms, I already said something about containment. So a classifier has features. Well, if that kind of containment, the features contained by a classifier, then you have a subform of a feature to define that containment. And if you want to have multiple features, then I use that plus to get extra features. So here you see a classifier can have features is done with a subform of a feature. With inheritance, for instance, a classifier can be a concept, an interface, or an annotation. That then you want to show a subform of a concept when it is a concept. But when it is an interface, you want to show the subform of an interface. In order to get that, I made a switch in the parent form, in the classifier, to say, is this classifier a concept, an interface, or an annotation? If so, give me the right subform. So here you see a classifier is, in this case, a concept. So I showed the subform of a concept. But if I would choose it is an interface, then I get the subform of an interface. And last but not least, a link. I've showed that by a drop-down select box. So you can see here, so you want to choose another classifier, then you get a drop-down of all the classifiers that you have in this system, and then or in this model, and then you can choose one that you want to have. So I started now inputting in those fields different languages. So this is, for instance, XML as is used in MPS. I just took the MPS implementation and looked, the concept of XML document and a XML base element and etc. and define it exactly the same way and all the relations that they have. And here you have push the button for an object graph, and you get the whole overview. I'm working on an import, so via the Lion core exchange format. So there's a serialization format, so you can, and there is already an output from MPS to this, so I can input a lot of languages that are already defined in MPS and have a look how they look like as forms. Very interesting. So it's growing, the project is growing and growing, and slowly we are going in the direction of let's say it's a promising alternative input interface for language workbenches. So I'm trying to find the limits of what is possible with it, and I think also in talking after words on the meetup, we talked about that maybe for expressions and other things, forms are not the most ideal input interface, but I'm looking for what is possible with it and try to do as lot as possible with forms. And my working hypothesis even is, if it is possible with code, then it should be possible with forms. You could put that on a tile too. So to summarize, there are a lot of possibilities for not only for end user software, but also for model input. Forms, they form a language with a structure and types and constraints. You don't have to learn anybody how to use forms, mainly because forms guide. They push you in a direction. And they don't have much distraction from concrete syntax details like double or single quotes or square brackets. All those details are not relevant. You're directly inputting something into an AST. It is also useful for model input, and maybe this interface appeals more to some subject matter experts than other interfaces in some circumstances. It is also very well useful online, and you can also use it on higher meta levels. So I think all in all that it is a good addition for our toolbox of user interfaces. Thank you very much.